So today we are going to be discussing electricity. Electricity is one of the most, if not the most, important elements of Anno 1800 going forward. In my humble opinion, of course. However, before we do that, could you please, for the love of God, get your hamster off the wheel? He's tired, okay? He's been running this entire block. Enough's enough. Give him a little treat and let him go to bed, okay? Let's get on with the guide. Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of the Anno 1800 Beginner's Guide series. Today, as I mentioned in the beginning, we are going to be discussing electricity. Electricity is very important, so I'm going to start it off by saying it that way. I don't normally like to pay that much attention to what I'm normally even doing, but I can definitely tell you and highly recommend that you pay attention very, very much to this particular episode, because electricity really changes the game from here on out, because you use it primarily for your housing, your industrial needs, all that stuff. It really makes life very easy. The problem is really its setup. So what we're going to be doing in this episode is part of it is going to be with this island, and then the other half is going to be with the Anno 1800 Expert Campaign series, where I have fully optimized oil refineries and power stations so I can show you what it looks like. So we're going to do a bit of both. As always, if you're new here and you enjoy the content, please consider subscribing to the channel. I am very active and willing to grow this channel to something even more incredible than what it is right now. And I would definitely love to see you be a part of it. And obviously, if you leave comments, I will respond back to all your comments. If you'd like to add in additional information you think I've forgotten, please go ahead and do so. I highly encourage it. And never discourage comments. Never. I will respond back to your comments regardless. And even the responses to your comments, because I'm very on top of that. So, let's discuss the electricity to start. We are in the engineer tier, so we naturally have access to the electricity here. Electricity has a dual purpose. We can't get to this yet, but we have access to the oil power plant, and later on we will have it to the fuel station. The fuel station is for tractors. If you have the Bright Harvest DLC, this is what you're going to be using it for. If you do not, then you have just the normal track here. And essentially how this works is you need to, first of all, set up an oil harbor. This is what it looks like, and in the previous episode we went ahead and set this up. The oil harbor is essentially the beating heart of your oil network on any given island, okay? The thing here is that the Old World and Cape Trelawney, if you do have the Sunken Treasures DLC, that's for later, we haven't touched on that in this particular series quite yet, do not have a lot of oil springs in the Old World. I think the most I've ever seen on any island in the Old World has been around 6. That's not enough, okay? Later on, that is definitely not enough, and we will go through the values and all that good stuff in a minute. But essentially, the way to really maximize oil production is through the New World. The New World offers you so much oil, it's crazy. So what I've already done is I found this island over here that has 12 oil springs over here, and definitely you're not allowed to colonize anywhere. Thank you very much. We have 12 oil fields over here. If we go and explore some more, there are 14 over here. There's 9 over here, 16 on this mega island, 16 over here, 12. So there's a bunch of oil in the New World that you need to take advantage of, pretty much, okay? So I'm just going to go ahead with this ship. I'm going to colonize this island just to start out. And we'll keep it for later because we're going to be getting to this at some point, right? And what we need to do is, because we already have enough, I guess, already in the Old World, we can go ahead and get this situated, right? So what you essentially need to do is, from your small oil harbor, which I honestly think they should have put this first in this track and then made it branching to, like, you need to go to this and you need to get this and whatnot. But the general gist of it is you are essentially transporting oil from the refineries via train to your oil harbor, and from this point and that, it will be transported to your power stations. So the very first thing that you're going to want to build is your small oil harbor. This is what it's going to look like. And yes, you can go ahead and upgrade this. The highest you can go up to is a large. if you have the Bright Harvest DLC, it takes it up to the Grand Oil Harbor. But right now, we have a storage capacity of 500 oil in here. As mentioned in the previous episode, these oil stores are essentially like depots, but they only house oil. Only. Nothing else. And they will hold about 200 tons of oil storage in this island. So, this thing by itself is not generating oil, okay? This is just waiting. What we have here is 3 trains that are waiting for these refineries to be built up. And the way to do this, just so I can show you guys once more, because I did it kind of quickly in the previous episode, I'm going to get rid of all the tracks so I can just show you how this is again, whilst also getting a road connection just built up over here for these guys once more. Do note that can kind of happen. So, what essentially the game is telling you is that you're going to have to transport them via train. As you can see, the way to get into this particular oil harbor is only via one track. But you can't have one track. The game will start to yell at you. It is called a parallel track issue, and it essentially means that you are slowing down the production of your own oil production because you're only utilizing one train track. So this is what we're going to do, okay? We're going to go over here. We're going to build up this oil refinery, and then we will also get this other one built up soon. We just need a lot more workers, which I didn't really think about that, apparently. So I'm just going to go ahead and downgrade probably this side back to workers, and I will get the second oil refinery going. It'll tell you once it's actually filled up, and they do actually process oil very quickly. There are specialists that you can get later on that will massively increase this. I will actually show you guys an island in my expert campaign series that legitimately has 1 second oil production. It's very, very fast. But as you can see here, there's a little indicator at the top, missing railway track to Oil Harbor, okay? This is what we need to fix. So what we need to do is we need to start off immediately by extending a track, and we're going to go based off of how we went before, but I just wanted to showcase this again. We now have this track, and you have to be a little bit careful with the train tracks because sometimes, right, even if you put it here, and you're planning on actually wanting to attach it to this one, it may not do it automatically. 9 times out of 10, it doesn't. So you're going to have to actually physically do it yourself. And what it means by parallel track, this is pretty much the long and short of it. You have to have tracks running parallel to one another, so your trains are going to constantly, like, one can go over to the oil refineries, get what it needs, and then the other one can go back. The way we've designed this particular section, though, it becomes a little bit tricky. So what we can do is we can extend the train track to be like over to here. And this creates another little parallel track for these guys to go across. It's not a very long one. In this particular situation, we could have even brought it all the way up to here and linked it up to go to the other side. And instead of having like this section. So there's a lot of things you can do here. In fact, this probably works a little bit more effectively because now you have 2 tracks over here and they'll be able to crisscross through this little area. So we're over to this side now. What we're going to do is we're going to take this track and we're going to bring it all the way to the back of this refinery, and that will automatically link up. All right, she's excited to see the first train. So this thing is now linked up and it's going to start processing the oil, and we might see a train actually come out here. But what we need to do is we need to also pre-plan this because the second track needs to get up online relatively quickly. So we're going to bring this train track and I'm going to link it up to the front here. And from the back here, I'm also going to loop it once around. This helps just cut down on the whole parallel track issue a lot. And there's our first train coming in because these guys were already producing. They just didn't have a way to transport, right? We have to get to this one now, so we're going to get a train track going from this side, and we're going to link it up to the back of this one, and we will also extend this track forward. Let's take it to about here, and we'll attach it here. Perfect. So now we have 2 tracks going, one going to this one staying at this one, but there's a loop around it just in case they want to go all the way back to the oil harbor. And now what we're essentially going to watch is this train that's in here collecting all the oil necessary that these guys have actually produced, which in this case, it's 49 between these 2 particular refineries. and it's going to go all the way down this parallel track towards the oil harbor. If we're lucky, we'll probably see another train kind of pop out. But normally, until you really optimize your chain so they're going a lot faster, you won't see more than one train at any given time. But this isn't the only thing we have to do with regards to the trains and the oil, right? This thing is bringing 49 oil in, and that's pretty good, okay? But right now, we have a blueprinted oil power plant just kind of sitting right here and doing nothing. The real important thing here to wrap your head around with regards to anything power plant related is that one power plant should optimize as much as possible. So we can see that if we were to, for example, move this one rendering works over here, this one would have electricity as well. Or we can even put it over here, because it's pretty much going based off of the blue on the streets. So this is the radius. Yes, there are ways to expand upon the radius, but that comes with the Seat of Power DLC, which is all about palace and palace optimizations. I can talk about that as an additional DLC to really... I do recommend that one. It does help quite a bit, actually. So I probably will talk about that at some point, but that comes in the investor tree. So what we're going to do now is we're going to build up this oil power plant right now. And it's not connected to a train track because we can't use a warehouse to bring the oil here. Okay, we're going to actually need a train. So we're going to do something very similar. We're going to have a parallel track running, but in this situation, because of the way that we built up our industrial quarter, we want to be as carefully with the edges here, as careful with the edges, there we go, as we can be in order to reach this one power plant. So now it's connected, but what I still advise is that there should be some modicum of a parallel track if you can, because you don't want them to just be sitting here, right? So you can just bring it from out here, and you can just run right alongside it. Perfect. So we'll bring it all the way up to here. We'll just crisscross in here. I know it doesn't look great, but ultimately it's better that it doesn't look good, but it works, than it looking good and it not working. Okay, that's just my methodology, really. So what I really want to see is one of these trains go into there. And once this is working, you'll be able to see at the bottom, like this, for example, this weapon factory, this little dial at the bottom. It's showing that currently there is no electricity here. Okay. Later on, when there is electricity, this thing is going to start to shake, and it's going to say, oh, we have electricity. So right now, this thing's working at 1:30, and we do indeed have a train headed towards our power plant right now. So we're going to see this thing working. There is a positive side and a negative side to this whole shindig when you start it, let me tell you. So it's going to go in, it's going to deliver the goods. We have 81 in there. That's pretty substantial. And once it's done, we will see that this light switch is going to go on. Hopefully soon. There it is. And what happens is the radius around this little pause button turns blue. So it's another little indicator that shows you that electricity is indeed working here. And 1:30 turns into 45 seconds. These guys who were at 30 seconds before are now at 15. These guys who were at 45 are now at 22. These guys, of whom were a minute, are now 30 seconds. This is what happens. One power plant doubles the production of all of this. That's why it's really important to understand how to get your setup correct to get oil from your refineries to your power station for this level of optimization. Here is the onion, though. It completely drains your resources, okay? Look at that. We are in no way, shape, or form producing 17 tons of iron. We are only producing 8. Same goes with coal. They're both at 8. This is why I mentioned that the Docklands DLC is actually helpful here, because you can actually import this stuff and you don't have to only rely on it. Yes, power stations do indeed work with mountain mines, as you can see here. This is working, but now you have an iron mine that's all the way out here, and then another one that's all the way out here, plus a whole bunch of charcoal kilns. You have two choices. You can either decide to go to other islands like the ones that we have and start mining them for resources and bringing them over here, or if you have Docklands, put it in there and just start importing it into your island. So now we actually have two trains going to and from here. There's one still just stuck in here, but that's because it's not needed, right? And you can go and check to see how much oil you need right now. For the one power plant that we have, we're okay because the supply is actually at 16, but the demand is only at 12. So this is what I'm saying, that one power plant is actually, it guzzles through so much oil. We will not be able to build another one here. And that's why you're going to have to set up oil routes in the new world and have it brought towards the old world or wherever your capital regions are. Because remember, you should be doing this on every single one of your islands, okay? There should be specific islands set for your city growth. There should be specific islands set for your economy. And then there should be other ones to just supplement your lower tier residents, like farmers and workers and stuff like that. You don't want them all on one island. Some people do that. Not saying you can't. It's just not the most optimal setup, in my opinion. So let's hop on over to the Anno 1800 Expert Campaign Series. I'm going to show you an island in which oil is so massive that you're literally going to flip. Give me a second. So here is a fully optimized oil extraction location. Yeah, that's probably the best way of putting it. This is from the Expert Campaign Series. Essentially, what this is multiple refineries around a trade union. And as you can see, these guys are processing a lot of oil. There are plenty of tracks for these things to actually get into the main oil harbor over here. And as you can see, there's a very long parallel track as there's another refinery up here, right? So the thing with this is that you need to make sure you have enough tracks without it actually looking crazy difficult for your own self to manage to get oil from these to your harbor. So this particular island right now, which is one of the newer ones in our campaign series, is sitting kind of close to 2300 oil. And if we were to go over here to the production, we'll notice that we're making 94 oil per minute. That is essentially how to read this, okay? So this particular island, again, has a trade union, and I haven't covered trade unions in this guide series quite yet. However, these particular items are helping out significantly with boosting the production of these particular oil refineries. So we have one that's producing by 60%, the other one by 40%, so that's 100 right there, an additional 55, so 155% extra to have 1 second oil production. These guys are cranking this stuff out like no tomorrow, okay? This is what you want to have eventually happen. This is very advanced level, but later on, this becomes very easy for you to manage. You look at it, you're just like, okay, I know I have to put this here, I know I need to put this here, and I know I have to put this track with this one. Let's hop on over to a city that requires oil lines. So this is my Scholar Island. This is actually one we ended recently. It's still in the main campaign series, but essentially if you're new here, I like to roleplay a lot, so this is part of our roleplay thing, that this is an entire university campus. But for everyone who's interested to know, this is how we've set it up. So we have the medium oil harbor here, because I didn't feel like we needed to get anything higher. And we have trains running through the city itself. So like we have a power plant right over here. And there's parallel tracks running throughout this settlement. So there's some over here. There's a power plant over here. There's tracks leading all the way up here into this power plant. And then there's another one over down here. And there's one kind of tucked away over here in this corner. Essentially, what you try to do is make it possible for these guys to get oil to wherever you need it to go easily. And the best way to do that is by having parallel tracks very similar to these. This is the way that the game is telling you to do it. But I will be very frank in telling you that the game does not help you understand that this is what it wants you to do, okay? This is the little signal you see above your particular, power plants that you don't ever want to see. It's parallel track occupied, and that's because there was a train in here, because this one is coming on the same track as that one. Why, I'm not sure. Sometimes you cannot even fix that. if there was a way for you to actually tell your trains which track to go on, that would have been fantastic. But the game does not offer that function. You kind of have to do your best. So hopefully this is a good intro to electricity. It is not as difficult as it's meant to be if you understand that you just need to literally make parallel tracks to your islands, on your islands, to your oil depots. And heck, we even have some oil over here, which it's all the way in the back here. Obviously, I beautified around it, but these guys are not producing oil nowhere near as fast as the ones from the island in the New World are. But pretty much having some parallel tracks to reach these and then constantly having ways to snake through your settlements to get to these power plants are really, really important. If you don't feel like this is something that you really like doing, I will tell you there's another way of having electricity in this game, and it is via natural gas. Natural gas does not require you to have anything besides a warehouse close by. The problem with natural gas is a lot harder to extract. It requires a lot more setup, and it is probably one of the most advanced chains in this game. And here is a gas-fired power plant just to show you. And one of the people actually bringing over a natural gas canister over to this power plant. But this is the basics of oil. Oil is, it can be simple. It really depends. You have to just keep playing around with it and seeing what you can do. But ultimately, if you just literally stick with the basics, parallel tracks, make sure there's multiple tracks to get to the oil refineries, over to the power plants, you should be golden. There probably will be questions with this one, so by all means, feel free to ask as many questions as you want in the comment section. I will answer as many as I possibly can. And if I have to do a second video on showing you how to set up a New World power station, please let me know and I will do that gladly. So, until next time, my friends, thank you so much for being here. Hopefully you found this informative. This is a very important track, so if you want to go watch this video a couple times, I get that. If not, totally understand that as well. Until the next episode, though, please like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell button, share it with your friends. Thank you all so very much as always, and I will catch you on the next episode of my Rantunes.